Hello, my name is Alexandra Emanuele. I'm the managing editor for Global Food Safety Resource. Today I'll be speaking with Dr. Chris Elliot. He is a professor of food safety at Queen's University Belfast. He led the independent government investigation in 2013 into the Horsemeat Scandal and has been involved in many previous and subsequent investigations into the role of organized crime in the global food system. Ooh, that's pretty intense. Organized crime in the global food system. I'm going to be curious to hear about that. He specializes in the detection of food adulteration using cutting-edge scientific technologies. So we're going to speak about all those things and more today. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us, Chris.
It's an absolute pleasure, Alexandra. I'm looking forward to talk to you.
Awesome. So let's start with some basics. Is there a recent food fraud case that you've been investigating that you can share some details with us?
So actually, a lot of our ongoing investigations, I can't share with anybody because it's kind of top secret. Because if we tell the bad guys we're investigating them, they generally run away somewhere. But I guess for the past number of years, we've been really looking at things like herbs and spices, which are unbelievably high value. You know, 1 kilogram of saffron is worth about $20,000. So it is really big scale business. So we do a lot of herb and spice analysis, looking at the complex, we call it the murky world of spices actually. So much fraud goes on, it's quite remarkable.
Wow, that's very interesting. So how is that impacting or potentially changing the industry or work on investigating herbs and spices?
So, I mean, I guess what we generally do is we form what we call the coalition of the good. And those are the good actors in particular industries. And we work very closely with them because often it's just 1 or 2 rogue companies that can give a whole sector a very bad name. So we generally work with very bona fide companies, and often they will share very sensitive intelligence with us about what's actually going on in the marketplace.
Awesome, wonderful. So let's get into that horsemeat scandal because it was infamous, and I think that's something perhaps you can share a little bit with us, seeing as it happened a little while ago, and the bad guys have already been, caught in that case. So as the leader of the UK government investigation, what advice do you have for the industry to best ensure that they are delivering high quality, non-fraudulent ingredients?
Yeah. So, I mean, the horsemeat scandal, which started off in Ireland, moved to the UK, and then spread right across Europe. I think there was 27 different countries became involved in it. I think for a lot of companies, it was such a surprise that they became embroiled in a scandal like that. And for many of them, it was about naivety, not understanding that actually people can cheat, and people can tell you they're selling you something and they sell you something completely different. So I think absolutely companies need to understand, know their supply chains really carefully. And then they've got to verify that those people they're buying from are actually selling them the correct product.
Absolutely. Can you dig into that a little bit more? Knowing your supply chain, what steps would you encourage companies to begin to take to know that? Because I think there was so much surprise there that companies didn't know that they were purchasing horse meat.
So often when I talk about supply chains, I have to say it's a very bad description of what really goes on. There are supply networks, unbelievably complicated. So you're a very good person, so I'm going to buy something off you, and I know you're a good person, and everything's okay. But you might be sourcing from 4 or 5 different companies, and those 4 or 5 companies could be sourcing from another 4 or 5 companies, and suddenly it becomes a web. So unless you really know where the ingredients are coming from, the supply chains are moving from, anybody in that supply chain could cheat. Anybody.
Wow. So it's like looking at each step and really ensuring that the trust continues to be there in each step of the chain, the web.
Yeah, and we call that mapping supply chains, knowing who your primary supplier is, secondary supplier, tertiary supplier, and it is like a pyramid. Honestly, you will just see the number of companies. So one of the things we investigated once was a carrot cake. I absolutely adore carrot cake.
Same.
And oh yeah, honestly. And when we looked at the carrot cake, there was 40 different companies were actually involved in the supply network. And you think it only has a few ingredients, but 40 different companies. So that's just an example of how complicated supply chains really are.
Wow, you really need to be on your game when you are
Yeah.
ensuring the authenticity of your products. Okay, so I know that your team at Queen's University Belfast has been working to develop analytical tools to ensure that you have better food authenticity. So why don't you explain some of these methods?
Often I describe criminals are generally really stupid and get caught, but fraudsters are generally pretty smart and don't get caught.
Mm.
So this is people who are perpetrating fraud, and they will do everything they possibly can to try to evade detection.
Mm-hmm.
They will know the checks and inspections, they'll know the scientific test that you use, and they will try to find a way around it. Mm-hmm. So our way of trying to combat that is we have developed a technique, we call it fingerprinting of food. So we can use different scientific techniques. If I take one of the spices that we work with, say pepper, black pepper, we can produce a fingerprint of black pepper. Not only will it tell us it's black pepper, we can even tell the country of the world that black pepper came from. So whenever the fraudsters try to cheat, and often you'll get something like papaya seeds will be added to black pepper to bulk it out. And our fingerprinting technique, within a few seconds, will go, that's not black pepper. It's a mixture of black pepper and something else. And we do this through what we call spectral analysis. And to start with, our tests were quite complicated, quite big machines, but we can now do it on our smartphone.
Wow.
We have little scanners about this size, scan food, it Bluetooths to your smartphone, and within 3 seconds, it will say, everything's okay, or you have a problem.
That's super cool. And I love how it makes it so accessible to so many people when it's that small and so accessible. Wow. It's been so fun and so engaging to chat with you, Chris. I love how you make food fraud so understandable, so easy to digest, excuse the pun. Thank you so much for chatting with me. I'd love to continue to hear more about your cases as they become broken, as you catch the bad guys. Thank you for chatting with me. It's been really a pleasure.
My pleasure also. And just be careful of what you eat, okay?
Okay, will do.